the question I'd ask is, if you have a great team, so if we hold that those things are true, that in order to have amazingly structured data in your Salesforce, or in order to get value out of an AI or machine learning trained AI agent, however you want to describe it, if we assume that that is true, if we assume that in order to do that, you need to have well-structured data and a well-trained team that's consistent, what advantage is the AI going to have over the existing sales team, the sales leadership group that you already have in place?
Yeah.
I when I think about it through those steps, I don't think that we're going to get to AI leading strategy of a deal. I think it'll be presenting like, oh, on average, you usually see like 3 buying influences, and one of those is like the VP of sales and these 3. But like, you don't need AI or machine learning to do that. You could just sit down and go, okay, let's look at the last 10 deals. Okay, it's these 10 titles. Okay, so let's make sure we got these 10 titles involved. There are these titles involved.
Yeah. I think like kind of where you're going is that AI is not going to be an extra brain. It's just going to be an extra set of hands, right? The extra set of hands is going to help you do something that, hey, I want you to tell me, because I don't want to look manually in each of these 50 deals, which one of them are single threaded. I want you to like help spoon feed that to me in a report that I can then work through with the rep. You know, like it's doing stuff like that. And that's a lot of like how you're using it too, where it's basically multiplying what I can do, but it's not telling me how to necessarily do my job better. It's just getting me the information that I need and getting it really quickly.
100%. My favorite Salesforce concurs feature that doesn't exist yet is just an empty text box where I can just type in and be like, build me a report on all my opportunities, from the last 30 days from this data source. Yeah. And also add in this and tell me what the close rates were. And I can just type that in, and the generative AI understands those commands, understands the Salesforce model or the concurs, et cetera, and then goes and does those things. I know a few people that are working on stuff like that, but nobody's quite there yet. And I think the number one biggest thing is like, hopefully Salesforce eventually builds that. But I think to be able to speak to your data, like literally just type to your data or type to Salesforce, hey, Mr. Einstein, can you do this for me? Let me ask you a few questions first, Collin. Okay, cool. There it is. Yeah. Like, I'm hypothesizing about the future. Let's talk about what are some other things that you don't like. So like I'll come out and say, I don't love trying to get too fancy and like run. I don't think AI is quite to the point where it can run strategy on a deal yet. I think it can, to your point, it's a great second set of hands. It's a great reminder of, hey, this is how that call went. Here's a great summary. Here's a great next steps. Here's a great next actions. Set of next actions. It can automate a ton of manual paperwork and admin stuff that sales folks don't love doing. And let's be honest, don't do. If you look at any of the ops in my Salesforce, my medic completion rate, the rate at which I complete my medic fields in Salesforce right now is at a statistical low, all-time low.
Yeah, I'm kind of bad at that right now too.
And we'll get to we'll get to filling out medic in a minute, because I've got a prompt that I've actually been working on because I'm lazy and I don't like filling stuff in. But what other ideas have you seen out there that you don't love, that that are using AI that it's maybe not the most helpful?
Well, my whole issue with AI writing email copy is that it needs good inputs. So the stuff that I have seen, again, I don't know. I was talking to like the product teams at some of these companies, and when I was demoing the platforms, it spit out some decent email copy when I was able to say, hey, I speak with VPs of sales at SaaS companies that are 250 to 1,000 employees. They usually have a sales org of like 50 to 200 reps. Their number one concern right now is account executive self-sourcing pipeline, because there's not as much to go around. They want to reduce reliance on SDRs and marketing. They want to increase pipeline coverage. And the other is around multi-threading. Deals are taking longer to close. They're engaging with more CFOs and additional stakeholders. Budget thresholds are lower, and they want to run tighter deal cycles. And when I gave it that information, it actually spit out an email that kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That would have taken me a little while to write that. But I don't think that the problem is writing a good email. I think the problem that people have is knowing what their prospect will care about and what they're focused on. That's the part that I think you need to help people find that I don't see any of these tools finding. And I'm not an expert on AI or engineering or any of that kind of stuff, but the thought that I kind of propose to them is, if the problem is not my writing abilities and it's more about, hey, actually, most of these people doing outbound don't really understand what their prospects really care about right now, how can you help them get that information? And to me, that was something like, I should, if I uploaded 10 sales calls with this persona, I sent over some email copy that landed meetings, I uploaded some talk tracks that we put together, I've uploaded some marketing content, could it extract all of that information? And I'm sure you could manually do this through ChatGPT and say, hey, what patterns do you see in here on what these people care about? Because these conversational intelligence tools, I'm like, how come this is not something that they do? They can tell you whether or not someone is using these specific words from this methodology, but that's just like telling you whether or not it showed up in the transcript in these specific words. It's not telling you, hey, we hear these patterns, when they have the data. You know what I mean? That's the part that I think the email copy, what I'm so afraid of is that we're just going to see so much more automated email copy now written by AI that's just like, oh, it's not that good and it's clogging up more inboxes. The only other thing that I would say too, I think that is with the conversational intelligence tools is that, dude, the transcriptions, like in a lot of these tools, are not very accurate. Like they mess up a lot of words, and I still haven't seen good transcription skills for people that are not native English speakers. So if someone has any kind of accent, like the accent detection is really bad also. So I also question the validity and the quality of the data that these recording tools extract. But push a button and write email copy for me is, it's the worst.
100% agree. You're taking the easiest part of the process and being like, hey, look, a computer can do it. It's like, but to your point, if you know all these things, you don't need 11, 12 years of experience writing emails to pop out a good email. Yeah. You need help figuring out all the other stuff, which I think I'm not an engineer, computer scientist. I know very, very little about AI. What I do know is the stuff that is extremely popular right now, ChatGPT, OpenAI, etc. These are large language models. Large language models. These are not large math models, which is probably not a thing. They're very good at generating language, understanding language, right? And so from a let's create copy perspective, they are very good at it. But when you think about the let's score this on a if I was doing a customer development interview with you and I said, hey, how important is getting help writing copy, writing your email copy on a scale of 1 to 10? How important is that to you? Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah.
And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your ability to currently do this? Probably pretty high. And I suspect anybody listening, you're probably, I suspect the same, maybe a little bit lower because, you're not Jason. Jason knows how to write email. I've spent some time writing emails. But I think the opportunity is not great. To your point, what you want is the strategy. But from what I've seen, these are large language models. Like ChatGPT has the code interpreter piece. And don't get me wrong, I have taken an entire Apollo instance worth of data. I've taken sequences, fully enriched, got all the data, threw it into GPT code analyzer and said, hey, tell me what the signals are. Couldn't find anything relevant that I couldn't find. I found some interesting things, but it took 15 minutes to do that. And it took 3 minutes for me to just look through the Apollo and go, let me look at the email replies and see what they're saying. And then let me look at the job titles.